Well, hello everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar today on streamlining purchase requests using Microsoft Office, Teams, and SharePoint. We'll be glad to get going on that. First, we're going to have a few minutes here of introduction. Some kind of mechanics of the webinar is that there is a questions box. So please, if you have any questions during this webinar, put the questions into the box. The questions box there in the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll be trying to answer them during the webinar, but if we don't get to them, we'll answer afterwards, after the webinar. Also, we'll have a recording available of this webinar, and we'll post it online, as well as make it available to you through email, whoever registered for the webinar. So again, thank you for attending this webinar. Welcome. I'm with Crocan Software. This webinar will be given by Ryan, our sales executive. And let's get that screen, there he is. He'll take over in a minute or two. And I'm Scott Restivo. I want to introduce Crocan briefly to you guys. As people join us, we're having a few more people join us. And as time goes on, quite a good crowd today. A lot of people interested in purchasing and requests and how to make Microsoft Office and 365, Microsoft Office 365 and SharePoint and Teams more useful in their organization. And that's great to hear. That's what we do. That's our business. It's helping organizations of all sizes around the world. We have companies all over the world using our software in all different sizes, and whether it's government or education or healthcare, finance, insurance, nonprofits. It's quite a wide variety because everybody can use this kind of software to help run Office 365, Teams, and SharePoint better. So one of our main focuses is the business applications that we have, which are innovative, out of the box, ready to go applications. One of them is purchasing, you'll see today, but we also have IT help desk and asset management and work order. These are common business functions that people need to have in their organizations, and automating them on SharePoint and Office 365 is a great way to go, and that's what we provide through our business applications. In addition to that, we have the Nitro Studio, the no-code, low-code application creation platform, a great tool for building forms, workflows, reports, custom actions, printing, just portals. I mean, it has a whole variety, everything you need. We built it over many years, probably 10 years now, to build this Nitro Studio to be a premier collaboration platform for building your own applications on top of Office 365 or SharePoint and now Teams. And the idea is either if you want a common business application out of the box, we have that ready. That's all. They are built on our Nitro Studio and can be easily customized, as Ryan will show you with our purchase request system. It's built on our Nitro Studio and it can be customized as needed. Everybody's got their own particular way of doing purchasing. So the customization and flexibility of this application is quite something based on our Nitro Studio. You'll see that. And then what we also do is we build custom solutions for people, and we provide AI and bot services, which are mostly like apps running in Teams. I think we'll be able to show you some of that bot capability today if you're interested in how you can make purchase orders through Teams using our Nitro bot. And then a little more background on us. We are a Microsoft preferred partner with business applications. We work obviously closely with Microsoft, and we've been involved with them for many years. Business has been around 24 years, Crocan. And we've been involved with the Microsoft collaboration platform since then. Been quite a great run, a great time. We've had almost quarter century now. It's hard to believe, and building these applications. And we're really glad that you're counted us and seen that are some of the solutions we have. And hopefully you'll look into what we're doing with purchasing and other applications. We're also on the GSA, part of the government. We sell a lot to the government, whether U.S., federal, other countries. Also counties, state, cities, any kind of locality or agency. We do a lot with the California government. We're a California small business. We're based in the Bay Area, in the Silicon Valley area, a little north of San Francisco. We also have an office in Rhode Island, over there on the East Coast. We have people in South Carolina. We have a small office in Australia. And we have a development group that we work, part of our company over there in Hyderabad, India. So we have a lot going on here, and I'm very glad you could join us for this webinar. And Ryan, I think you're ready to take over, aren't you there? I can pass the baton to you there, and you can go on with the webinar, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Let me see if I can make
Helps if I wasn't muted here. Are you guys seeing my screen here?
Yes, I'm seeing self-service portal on
Okay,
Teams.
perfect. Cool.
Okay, good. You can take it from there.
Oh, thanks, Scott. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, so I appreciate you guys for coming and attending the webinar. I'm a quiet talker, so if you guys can't hear me, I'm going to crank my volume up. But if you can't hear me, just ping it in the questions, and one of these guys will jump in and tell me to talk louder. So purchase requests. Right, if anyone's attended a webinar with me in the past, this is a little different than what I typically talk about. So like, like last week or last month, maybe, gosh, time flies, we did a help desk webinar, and help desk is a little bit more cut and dry, right? There's a process, there's a kind of standard process in place across many organizations that this is what a help desk should include or should have. Purchasing is a little different in the sense of, yeah, there's some base functionality that we all want and we all want to talk about, but there are things that are going to be specific to each organization that makes your purchasing request special or specific, right? So, if those questions come up, or, if you don't see something exactly the way that your purchasing department does it, I'm going to try my best to kind of cover those questions and talk about that as I work my way through. But always, I think James is working the questions right now, like Scott said in the chat box, or if you want to come and talk to us at a time after the webinar, specifically for your process, let's go ahead and do it. Okay, so purchasing, right? It really circles around this idea of a form and an approval process. Strip it down. I know it's oversimplifying it, but that's really what it is, right? A form gets submitted and we track the approvals associated with that form. So what does that look like, right? How do we make this available to end users and then route it appropriately internally? Well, that's where Nitro Studio comes in, like Scott was saying. You're looking at my purchase requests landing page for my internal team here, and you can see we got tiles, web part, reports, list views, kind of like making a dashboard look pretty. And all of this is kind of touched by Nitro Studio in one way or another. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about forms and workflows because that gets most of the love whenever we discuss anything related to SharePoint or any item, really. What does a form look like and how does a workflow route? But in this dashboard, you are seeing a tiles web part, a reporting, a list view, and we'll get into these in a bit more detail as I work through it. But now the different, like how to submit a purchase request or the different levels of permissions inside of the application. Really, it breaks down into three different groups. End users, right? Request submitters, request workers, and then the admin staff. So admin staff is going to have access to the backend, Nitro Studio, as well as a few other things I'm going to talk about in a second. Technicians or request workers are going to be in this interface here. And then there's this idea of end users, request submitters, and how do we get them to submit purchase requests to our team? Well, if you're in SharePoint on-premise, here, I can probably open this up too. Sorry, I'm going to click as I talk. But we need to basically route someone to a portal, an end user specific area where they can come and submit requests. Because architecturally inside of SharePoint, it's tough to break out item level permissions in a site, meaning my end user sees something in one item, but my technician sees something else. It's easier for us just to segment it out into two different sites. So ideally, we have like a landing spot for end users to come in and submit a purchase request through, right? You're seeing this here both inside of a Teams channel portal, as well as a SharePoint URL. Essentially the same thing, it's just kind of preferential in terms of how you want to access this purchase request. So now the way that we do this and the way that we break it out internally is on our forms tool. We actually have the ability to have multiple forms per SharePoint list. So it keeps that permission structure clean. And this is, you can see we have multiple forms set up on purchase requests here already. And this is important, like I was saying, for that permissions perspective. But the other question I get a lot is, well, what if I want only certain people to be able to submit a purchase request? Maybe departmental managers, maybe department heads, only a select few people can submit this request. That's also possible as well. We can limit what the request submitters see versus what the technicians see on the forms perspective, as well as make each form, sorry, tongue-tied, specific to a particular group, right? So this architecture on the forms tool gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of who can see what and who it's available to. Now, submitting this form, it's this is the first topic of conversation is what does your form look like, right? Here you can see we have a purchase request form, that is intended to capture a lot of information in terms of how we're going to route this for approval. Is it budgeted? What type of purchase is it? What department is it for, right? Who's submitting the request? And really, it's just capturing that metadata in terms of what's specific to you guys to write to your form internally, and then how are we going to route this for approval, right? And when it comes to adding columns, removing columns, it's very easy. In the forms tool itself, we have a lot of layers of complexity that goes into the form design. But from a basic design perspective, it's very much drag and drop. For those who are familiar with SharePoint, basically these are, oh, that already exists, just kidding. Right here, come on, Ryan, duh. These are, containers, right? These are tabs on the form, and then everything else is just a column inside of the list, and those columns are made available here under form controls, and then everything else is just drag and drop, right? You select the column that you want and pull it over. So what I'm trying to show is that it's, from a design perspective, just because this form doesn't match what you guys have doesn't mean that it can't be changed to look exactly the way that you guys want it to, which is pretty nice. And honestly, this is common in every purchase request implementation that we do, is that we make changes to the form to match it internally, to match your form internally. Now, there are some nice features here, being able to have a GUI interface of the purchase request list through the forms tool, so we can create columns on the fly without having to navigate to the list, come back to the forms tool. And when I say we, I'm not talking specifically about Crow Canyon. You guys also have this ability if you have proper access. Going back to that conversation earlier of the 3 different groups: request submitters, request workers, and admins. That admin group is going to have access to come in and make changes to the form, update columns, etc., as they see fit to make this application your own once it's installed, right? That's the nice thing about SharePoint in this regard. I don't want to leave that just yet. Okay, so we filled this form out, right? New purchase request, let's call it. We work our way through the form filling out process. Now, one of the big things are like, in my opinion, one of the big features of Nitro Studio is this idea of repeating rows or repeating tables. So back in the older iteration of the SharePoint space, there used to be this tool called InfoPath, right? And what InfoPath gave us was the ability to have a table connected to a parent form, right? And when Power Platform was put in place in Office 365 and they sunsetted InfoPath, we lost this ability. We lost this functionality to go in and be able to have multiple items connected to a parent item. And what we're doing really at the base level is we're actually connecting 2 lists together. So we have our purchase request list at the top, and we have our line items list at the bottom. So not only does it give us a little bit more flexibility from a design perspective, a load perspective, a permissions perspective, but it gives us that fully featured, total number of line items we want to add per form. And the columns captured on this form can be designed specific to your organization as well, just like I was showing in the purchase request form. And the nice thing here is that we can also pull information from like a purchase catalog, right? If you have certain items that you want them to purchase, you can populate price per unit, quantity, things like that. Or they can, free type in their own, okay, sorry, selected something, free type in their own, their own option if needed, right? And be able to, I can't leave it blank, come on, Ryan. And it'll yell at you if you do it wrong. Probably my favorite feature. They can free type in their own, their own purchase item. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, right? They have the ability to select from a catalog or submit their own item. And we're keeping an aggregate cost here at the bottom, 15K totally built up here. And this is just another one of those form features that I was talking about from the multi-layered perspective of it. You have total cost, which is a validation, basically taking the quantity times the total amount and giving us a spit out at the bottom. Again, another cool feature of the forms tool. Now we've taken this information, we made this form yours, we've built it out, we've submitted it, total cost, and now we're going to run a custom action. And in our terminology, what a custom action is it's a workflow that's manually invoked, right? So I'm going to run a workflow specific to this approval process. And what this approval process is doing is it's looking at this approval levels list internally. Well, we're essentially culminating a multitude of lists together here, 3 in reality. Okay, so we have the purchase request list that we're submitting approval for, right? That purchase rec. But going back to that repeating rows conversation I was talking about earlier, if we strictly have, one item, we're kind of dead in the water with one approval level. So now what we need to do is we need to use that functionality, that repeating rows, associated items is what we call it, and rope in an approval task list. And we need to create those tasks based off these approval levels. And these approval levels is the other piece of the pie, whatever you want to call it, specific to an organization, right? So everyone has their form, that purchase rec form, right, on the front end, and then everyone has their approval process on the back end, how it gets routed, who it gets routed to, right? So it can be anything from departmental level, right? Hey, it needs to go to IT first, or it needs to go to finance first, and then it needs to go to the CFO, then it needs to go to the CEO. Hey, it's a dollar amount. Hey, it's the type of purchase. And you can see that in this approval levels, we have a lot of those options here just to kind of be like a catch-all in terms of demoing, right? But this approval levels list is what's going to be specific to you. Like I said, it's a matrix that you guys provide to help route and create these approval tasks. And once the approval tasks get created, okay, how do I notify and how do these approvers mark these tasks off? And that's an interesting question. It comes up a lot, right? It's something that most approvers, I laugh because most approvers won't come in and complete the task, right? So if we go in and we look at like, an approval on a purchase request. Let me just find one here. Sorry, a bunch created. I'm gonna find one that I know has like an approval associated to it. Maybe these laptops. And we look at the approval here, and there is a approval decision made against this request. So in this case, Scott came in and approved this particular item against the purchase request, need laptops, right? Getting people to come in and complete tasks requires an extra layer of permissions, but also the familiarity with SharePoint in their regard. So there's a few different ways to go about this. The most common, I would say, is having them do a quote unquote lazy approval, right? Through email. And it looks a little something like this. So the decision internally for that task, that approval task, is they have 3 options, the choice column: approve, deny, send back, right? So you can see here, using a few other tools inside of Nitro Studio, we're going to be able to update that task via email for who's the task assignee. So we have part of our workflow tool, and then our email and text sync. So what this is, it's leveraging a send email option, a notification in the workflow, and we've copied over placeholders from the request into the body of the email, links to the items, links to the tasks, as well as a description of the purchase order itself. What's nice about this is it gives them as much information as you want them to go in and approve the request here. Now, I also get asked questions like, well, if they add quotes onto the purchase request, oh yeah, duh, sorry guys. Can I add quotes in? Can I add attachments? Absolutely. Now, if they add in those attachments, can I have them be populated into the email? Can I have them copied over? Again, absolutely possible. Now, what we do from this perspective, let's say they want to approve it, we're actually going to parse the email title for them to go in and update that task internally. So we're looking at this item, 00162, the decision is approved, and then any notes they add here, get added to the task. So they don't even have to know the task exists. They just respond to the email and go in and it updates that task automatically for them. So it provides a little bit more automation. They can do it from their phone. Makes it easier for them in that regard. So there's task, email submission, and at any point in time, sorry, tongue-tied again, if there's a multi-level approval process, once level 1 approves, it goes to level 2, if there's a 3rd level, etc. So we can always work our way down that line. If there's a group of approvers in each level, we have a lot of definition and flexibility around multiple people on a single level as well. One person needs to approve, the group needs to approve, right, etc. Now, the other option outside of tasks and email is what Scott was talking about earlier, and that's the bot. And basically being able to view my open. I think we have it set up for IT tickets here, but don't pay too much attention to it. I just want to talk about the flexibility here. Essentially being able to have an adaptive card sent to you through automation, right? Okay, just kidding. Let's find one that has something I can pull up. And this adaptive card is sent automatically. So where we're getting this email notification, right, when the request is created, right? The same principle is going to be sent when through this email or through this adaptive card through the bot when the request is submitted as well. So let's say you get assigned a task. This task is going to pop up, right, when this is approved, let's call it. When that task is, or when that rec is submitted, you're going to get a little one notification here, you know, in your chat letting you that you have something to look at, just like I do at the bottom. I like it. I don't know. At first, I think James can even attest to this. At first, when Teams was coming around and we started to use this more and more, I was like, I don't know. Yeah, I got stuck in my ways with the email feature. But now as Teams is starting to become more and more prevalent, right, especially when the pandemic hit, almost 2 years ago. Wow, it's crazy. It feels like 10. This is starting to become more and more at the forefront. And these adaptive cards, these bots inside of Teams really give us that flexibility for notifications, updating of tasks, things like that. And you guys can see my Teams or my emails pinging in the background to let me know that this has been updated. So from a task completion perspective, you know, if you have your folks who are a little bit more tech savvy and want to come in and get pinged via Teams and update and approve tasks directly from here, they absolutely can. They also have that ability to do it via email like I was showing and actually going and physically completing the task. So options essentially, and we're not limited to one or the other. That's the great thing about SharePoint in that regard is that, you know, you can have all of them, you can have one of them, you know, you can have two of them in terms of updating tasks or submitting purchase requests. That's a nice thing about leveraging your own environment in this regard. Okay, so form creation, right? We talked about that, making the Nitro form your own. We talked about the workflow, leveraging that, you know, that approval levels list, that approval matrix to go in and create, you know, those tasks. We talked about task completion for the appropriate approvers. Now, when everything is approved, what do we do internally, right? How does the team get notified that something has been approved and updated? Same principle I was just talking about. You have the email, like you guys saw me getting pinged when I was completing tasks in the bot, right? This email alerts to let me know that, you know, this is approved, right? Whatever it may be, whatever notes, again, the rich text email that you want to send to, you know, the internal staff or the purchase request submitter when that rec is approved, you can. The other option is inside of a Teams channel. So this is something else that we've been playing with too, you know, having this post section be kind of a common interface for departments. Not only sending adaptive cards when requests are created or approved in this case, like this is a time off request, you know, being able to have a common space where maybe purchasing has their own, you know, team in their own post section where we can send them direct messages when a purchase rec is approved by all parties, but they can also work the request through the Teams interface as well. So SharePoint is going to live in the back end, right? Nitro Studio and in the admin section is always going to be SharePoint based, but the way that we interact with these applications, the way that we're notified around these applications can still very much be email based for those who are on and on-prem. But for those in Office 365 and are shifting more and more towards the team side of things, you also have the ability to get those notifications through a Teams channel as well. Okay. So now there's kind of a debate that I talk about when purchase requests are approved, right? In terms of, let me find one here. In terms of automatically creating a purchase order versus creating a purchase order manually. And now here's a good example, actually. Here, seeing a two-step approval process here. I see it split, to be honest, going back to my original point. Some folks like the purchase rec to automatically create a purchase order, and other people like to come in and actually review it before the purchase order gets created, being able to put eyes on it and run the purchase order through those custom actions I was talking about earlier. I like this because I like the, I say this a lot, the warm and fuzzies, the green check marks you can see as my screen was scrolling through there to let me know that the workflow fired off correctly and I don't have to, I like control the things I can, don't worry about the things that I can't. So I like this aspect. But the other side is if you want the purchase order to be automatically created when the all tasks are approved, that's a possibility as well. Just a matter of how the workflow is configured. Now, flowing from purchase rec to purchase order, right? We have a different dashboard. So you can see we are looking at the rec dashboard, open, denied, etc. We have a similar setup here for purchase orders, right? In these views, do I still have this open here? Yeah. Pending PO generation, pending approval, right? These tiles, web parts, these reports are graphical interfaces to the list information. So what's residing in the request list and what's residing in the order list. And like I was saying earlier, the forms and the workflows, we get a lot of love, right? But these other little pieces, the reports, the tiles, web parts, the list views, the list rollups, they make SharePoint, easier to comprehend, easier on the eye, I guess would be the way to describe it. More of like a real dashboard as opposed to just kind of the list on the side and the blank white page you're used to seeing with SharePoint. And these are just as configurable as the forms and the workflows. So these are views on the list, right? Show me all purchase orders to be, or show me all purchase orders needing to be ordered. Show me all of them reconciled, opened. And you can click into these and it pulls up that view for you. So just a nice way to see this information presented into a dashboard. And it also makes it easier if you're rolling up to somebody, you need to be able to present this information in a common space. This could easily be shared with the appropriate people internally. And I will say that these reports also have the ability to be sent via a schedule, right? So maybe you want to show all purchase orders by department, and at the end of every month, all purchase orders by department per quarter, let's say. These can be scheduled and sent to the appropriate people on that schedule. So now the order, this one we just turned over, 3 laptops, right? Tracking the status of the laptops, yeah, sorry. Tracking the statuses of the laptops. I was gonna say order, I guess it's one and the same. It's really just a matter of updating statuses, right? Like where is it? Who has it? Where's it going? And we give you the ability to do that kind of at 2 different levels, at the PO level, at the top level, as well as at the line item level. I like the line item level. In this case, I only have 1 line item, but we can come back and do one with extra. But if anyone's ever ordered something from, any organization that's multiple, has multiple purchase items, they come in different boxes, they ship at different times, right? So that's another reason that we have this form segmented out, or why it's nice to have this line items form segmented out from the purchase request form, is that now that we can track them as independent entities. So when we're tracking, receival of laptops versus monitors and they're shipped at different times, we don't have to track it as one kind of blanket purchase request, right? So we're going to update received quantity. Another piece of the forms tool that's nice is this ability to restrict permissions based on where we are in the form process. I can't change the quantity, right? It's already a purchase order. I can't go in and update this quantity. All I can tell them is how much I've received, right? So that read-only permission based on a certain, status or where we are in the process. And again, the warm and fuzzies. Is this fulfilled? No, we only got 2 out of 3. Small thing, I know, but it's kind of nice because let's say you got 2 and then 1 shipped separately. There's the Ryan proofing on the form, I'll call it. being able to eliminate human error, like, hey, dummy, you already got 2. You can't have, you can't have received another 3, right? And again, the reason we do this is because we're keeping version logs against this. So you can go back and say, all right, I received the first 2 on the 23rd. I received the 3rd one on the 24th, right? And go ahead and you can include attachments, things like that. But now it gives you that ability to track, like I was saying earlier, each line item as independent entities, and then each quantity as independent entities as well too. It gives you a little bit more flexibility from the top level. Speaking of the top level, you can also update the PO status as well. You can see this is done it. It's done it for me already. It's marked it as fulfilled because those line items were, it was automatically set when those line items were received, which is nice. So it does have some automation built in there for me. And that's from the receival of items. And that's really what it is on the purchase order side. Like I was talking about earlier, we have our different views, ordered, reconciled. Essentially, these are just statuses, right? List views. So if you guys have different nomenclature or a different way to track, kind of the receival statuses of your items, that's an easy add-in. It's just a matter of drop downs and list views. Again, something specific to your organization. The other side, the other piece of the purchase order itself, the actual physical copy, right? The form itself, because now we're just dealing inside of SharePoint forms. That's where we want to leave it. That's totally fine. Meaning we want to submit the form, build the form to make it look and feel a certain way, and then create the item, save the order, track the order, and have it all be self-contained inside of SharePoint. Absolutely fine. More often than not, though, folks want to have a printout, or a physical purchase order, a copy, and maybe send it to a vendor, or just have something that needs to be physically printed. And those who are familiar with SharePoint know that printing inside of SharePoint is not easy, right? So that's something that we can do within Print Manager. But real quickly, I just like to show the flexibility of the forms tool. What do you mean we can make it our own? You can see here, you really can make it your own in terms of how information is displayed, capturing or having rich text information on the form itself. A lot of options from the design perspective. So, I know this is kind of a sidestep, but I think this is a nice point, a stopping point to see what a form can be from a visualization perspective. And the reason I bring this up is because I was about to talk about the signatures column. So not only do we have that flexibility, like I was showing, to have a form kind of look and feel a certain way, but actually capturing your signature on a form. Now, most people, when they approve, well, it's terrible. Most people, when they approve a task, it's leveraging their 365 login, right? Everything's done through, or SharePoint login, right? Everything's done through your environment, so they don't have to authenticate. It's who this person is, right? But if you do want to capture a signature, we do have a signature column, right? You can see here I'm signing with my mouse. I don't have a touch screen on my PC, but if you're on your phone or on your tablet and you want to sign with your finger, you can, and actually capture a wet signature on the form itself. I have it here, right? So a lot of flexibility. Oh, it's terrible. A lot of flexibility with what we can do from a signature capture as well as form design. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because I was getting into printing, and I'm gonna copy some information over from one to the other. So that physical copy, printing inside of SharePoint. I'm gonna fill this out as I go. Oh my gosh, I forgot our number. It's 925 something. We'll just make something up right now. So printing inside of SharePoint. How do we do it? Print Manager tool. And what it does, it gives us the ability to create a rich text print template, HTML template with placeholders, right? So now you can capture your own header, your own footer. So it's nice to replicate, your current form and put it into SharePoint. Honestly, most of the people that I talk to that are looking at the purchase, rec tool are, using a paper-based form, some sort of paper-based system. and replicating that form inside of SharePoint so they don't have to fill out maybe like a SharePoint item as well as a form gives us, cuts down on time, allows us to keep things kind of centralized to one area, but we still want that form, right? We still want that printout, that physical copy. So this print manager and this rich text for the header, the footer, and then as well as the placeholders from the item gives us that ability to do so. So that's why I was going through and filling that information out, because now I want to take this PO for these 3 laptops and have the physical representation of it here. So as you can see, for those who know what printing is like in SharePoint, it's a pain. We've made a nice clean purchase order template for the application. And this is just, again, a demo site. So if you want this to be specific to your form or to your process internally is probably the better way to say it. It absolutely can be using that print manager tool. This is the third part, right? So if I break it down, like we were talking about earlier in the lead-in, we have the functionality, the base application here, the form submission, the approval list, the task list, the tracking of the order, and it really comes down to the 3 different levels specific to the organization that are going to make this solution your own. The form itself, the approval matrix, and then the spit out of the form. This is where that third piece, the spit out of the form, the PDF version. And what's nice here is that you can actually send this as an email directly from the interface. It comes over as an attachment, and then you can send this to whomever, right? So if it is an outside entity, if it's someone not inside of your tenancy, you can absolutely send them this copy as well, or really anyone, right? Oh, wait, that's not me. Here we go. And have it be sent. Flip side, let's say we just want to save it. So that's, we want to keep a copy, right? I want to send this somewhere. Kind of a nice way to segment into the workflow tool. Like we want to keep a physical copy of the purchase order. I can spend hours on the forms tool. I can spend hours on the workflow tool. When I was talking about the forms tool earlier, I just wanted to show the drag and drop feature. But if you do want to talk about this in more detail, it's better to reach out because we'll need an hour, to talk about this. So that goes for the workflows as well. So I'm just going to show a portion here. But I do want you guys to feel comfortable to contact us if you want to know more about what we can do from a workflow perspective, either building from scratch or related to your purchase request piece. Okay, so let's look at this action that I'm talking about. When, in this case, when we're modifying an item, a purchase order, what are we going to do? So we have all of our various actions that I've talked about already today. Sending emails, sending mail to a Teams channel, creating an adaptive card, right? Creating items, managing permissions on the form. The other one is generating a document. And so that PO itself, I mean, you saw we had a print template here, that PDF template. If you want to merge it to a Word or Excel document that you're already using, that's a possibility as well. Same principle, same idea. You're mapping information from the request, from the purchase order into that particular document, whether it be Word, Excel, or PDF. And now you can actually save it to a doc library, have a template file in place. So when that does get generated, it just saves it as that physical copy of the purchase order into a targeted location inside of your organization. So it's nice, right? You have the ability to send it to a vendor if needed, or just store it to go back and research it or have it for historical data, right? So not only do you have the item saved, but then you also have the ability saved. The ability to save the document as well. So the item, the physical list item in the document to go along with it. Cool. Alrighty. So now as I'm going to start to wind down and we work through this, the request to dashboard aspect of it, I do want to talk about reports here because I feel like these are important. You can see I do have some built out, request by month, request by department. And essentially what I was talking about earlier is that these are a graphical interface. And then here's that print template real quick, right? Sent over via email. You guys can see that. The report tool is a graphical interface to the list information, right? So in this case, we're looking at a list or a set of lists, and we're choosing how we want to view that info, okay? So typically it's an X and Y axis. In this case, we're just looking at created an account, right? But as you can see here, we have the purchase request list created. You can also do it on the orders list, right? And be able to see that information specific to whatever list that we choose, and then the columns on that list. So maybe we want to see by department, by month, right? Date paid, whatever it may be. You have that ability to finite those reports, build them to your specifications, and then in the workflow tool, like we were talking about earlier, you might have seen this when I pulled it up, but be actually have the ability to schedule and send those reports out. That's a trigger option in the workflow tool. Cool. So, oh, I closed my main tab here. Sorry, guys. Let's go back to the top level. Okay, I know it's a lot. Covered a lot in 40 minutes, okay? So, form design, purchase request creation. Once the form's submitted, routing it through the appropriate approval process based on the approval matrix that you guys have set up internally, all right? Once it's approved, automatically creating a purchase order or have someone creating it, once it's reviewed, being able to include attachments, update attachments, quotes, things like that, tracking statuses of the order, and then physically, the physical copy of the order itself. Start to finish, the process is there. It's those three major pieces that we're talking about. Like I've kind of beaten up a little bit, but specific to you guys. And then the last piece, as I wrap up here, is integrations. So this is something that comes up pretty frequently with purchase requests, and I kind of save it for the end. It can be QuickBooks or ERP systems. Basically, I want to take this request information and levy it against another third-party tool. This is something like, if you guys want to dig into it, I really would suggest reaching out as I open up the workflow tool again. It's absolutely possible to set up integrations from our tool set to these ERP systems or QuickBooks, whatever it may be. For some reason, I'm stuck on QuickBooks, but you guys get me. Being able to invoke a web service, make a REST API call to that application, whether it's pushing, pulling. We also have a two-way data sync that's available as well. So if that is something that's top of mind and do you need, we do that for a few of our customers as well. Mainly circling around the licensing question. People have access to Office 365, but maybe not access to the ERP system, and we want to use that as an interface to submit requests to, possible as well. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of opportunities, and I hear Scott chiming in. We have some questions to answer, Scott?
There was a few, but I was noticing the bot, the commands weren't come up at first, but now they are. You might want to look at the bot again and see.
Do you want to take control and show it, Scott?
Yeah, sure. If you want to send that over, send to me. What I got to do, I got to.
Appreciate you updating that as we go here.
Show my screen. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so as Ryan was showing, there's the bot right here, our Nitro bot inside a team. It's really a Teams app, you could call it. And it provides another way for users to engage with the purchasing system. Ryan was showing you the SharePoint forms, the portal, people can even email in requests. There's so much variety of omni-channel support, but one thing people are getting interested in, Ryan was saying about with remote support, remote workers, is this is this Teams usage. So the bot, it runs inside of Teams. And it's easy to install, easy to implement, and it's easy to set up these commands. We have it set up right now. She could either go to one of the commands directly or even just type in nooges here. Now, again, this could be done on the phone. This could be done on a laptop. It could be done on, let me get the purchase there, get that spelled right. Yep. Then it could be done on any kind of device, bring up a new form for them to submit a purchase request. That then is tied right into the back-end system. So when they submit this, it'll go to that back-end system that Ryan was showing you. Put a description, I want a new laptop, some option here, kind of, set your options of type of purchase. Of course, this form is all highly configurable by you guys. It comes out of the box like this, but you can change. We can work with you to change it, normal, critical. What kind of pull from a catalog of different devices that you've set up previously. And then you could go here and submit it. And when it's submitted, it knows who your manager is from the Active Directory, and it'll send a message to that person for approval. and the person can go ahead and approve it inside the bot. Once you submit it, it can be approved inside the bot, and then you would have the manager would get a message in his or her bot that they're in his or her teams, really, that there is a new purchase, and then it can go into approval process. So it's pretty cool. It's really cool. People starting to use this more. They're showing the different ways it can be used to use it for the purpose of purchasing, as well as all these other, we see project management, IT help desk, different things like that. So you can submit a purchase request, view your open requests, search through the equipment that's there, search purchase request, and get that all there. And there's also, if you're approver, it'd be approved purchase request going on right here. I'm not logged in as the approver, I'm logged in as the submitter, but all that, if you submit one, it goes to the back end, gets approved gets into teams of the approver, person presses approve, and then it gets all done that way, and all the information recorded on the back end. You can also, as Ryan was saying about integrations, you can send a message to, perhaps you have a purchasing team. You want to send it to an order fulfillment team, and once it's approved, it can go to that team channel inside a team. So I just want to add that little bit in there, Ryan.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate that. Do you want to talk about the configurability of the commands too while we're here?
If someone's interested in the bot, that's a great conversation, and we love talking about it. So we have the bot commands. I have it up here. This is our bot command section right here. You can set here, and you can see all these different commands we're setting up. And I have I'll go down, there's all the help desk ones, there's the purchase request ones, and I'll go to submit a new purchase request. We're invoking a workflow. The workflow is display the adaptive card, purchase request, submit adaptive card. This is a Nitro workflow that says send this card to Teams, because as Ryan was showing you inside of Microsoft, inside of our Nitro workflows, is an action for Teams to submit a card to Teams, and that's what's configured. I'm not sure. I think I am in the right one here. So display approval task adaptive card. What was the actual command I had there? I don't remember. Purchase request submit adaptive card. So if we find that in our workflows here, purchase request submit adaptive card. I'm looking at displaying, so I've got to find the one for submitting. Here it is. Purchase request submit adaptive card. It's a user bot triggered. We're using our legacy. We could go to designer on this, but we're using legacy at the moment. So it looks a little different than what Ryan was showing you, but we do have this. This could be done just as well in the designer. And it does this, it posts this adaptive card. And when you look at that adaptive card, it has, what's going on here? Did I just, there it goes, right? Just had to refresh, I guess. So here we go. So when you post the adaptive card, you can have this card, whatever you want on it. It just said here, it's how you set up the card. We're really going under the covers here, Ryan, right? A little bit under the hood, I mean,
Yeah, it is kind of nice though. I mean, I appreciate it seeing the commands and the features. I mean, really, from the perspective of the flexibility and the configurability of the interaction with Teams, right? Like we were talking about earlier.
What you're seeing here is what shows up on Teams, right? There it goes, right? Yeah.
And I feel like everyone now, as we shift to 365, is becoming more and more prominent, and people are using Teams more and more. And anything that we can do to drive user adoption of any of these tools just makes it that much more useful, right, to the organization. So if it's easier to submit a command to say submit purchase request than it is getting them to fill out the form, let's make it happen, right?
Yeah. This is even sophisticated. If something, say it's over, you have it set up so over $1,000 requires 2 approvers. They'll do that too,
Right.
Or if a particular department has a particular approval process, we'll do that also. So it's like you're saying, it's a matter of getting to use SharePoint, Office 365, and Teams to drive business processes forward. That's our whole thing. That's what we do. And here's one example of it with the bot, as well as what Ryan was showing you in the back end. See, I just said view my purchase request right here. So it showed me the list up here, all these blue cards. Then I opened up one of them, laptop request from whenever it was. And then I could do here, if I was approver, it'd have buttons. Maybe it does have buttons down there. Let's see.
No.
So I can add a comment because I'm just pending. But if I was approver, it'd say approve it, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's another nice feature, kind of hammers the point home with the permissions perspective we were talking about earlier, right? That comes up a lot when we're talking about purchasing. Who can see what, and can I restrict submission to certain people, or approvers, and absolutely this is it in real time, right? Being able to see who can approve and who can't based off of who you're logged in as.
You know what I really think is cool about it, Ryan, is that you have the bot as the front end, but the back end is all there. All this information's here with the reporting, the dashboards, what the admins really need to see what's going on with these purchase requests. So it's kind of like multi-level. It's pretty cool.
I really like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, SharePoint had that kind of negative connotation in the space for so long because it was clunky and old and outdated. But leveraging Teams and the AI services with Nitro Studio makes it very much a usable tool, and as we move forward, especially with the way the Microsoft is pushing Teams, right? The URL feature, populating the application into a Teams channel is nice, but the full automation aspect of the bot just makes it that much more efficient.
Right. Right. And you were saying about printing, or we have these custom actions where they can do things like forward it over, once it's approved, forward it over to purchasing using that integration tool. I'm excited to get going. Hope some of the people on the webinar will contact us and help us put it in place. I find this cool stuff to do, don't you? I mean, it's really fun.
Yeah, purchasing is always a fun conversation for us because it opens up the possibilities and really pushes the tool in a positive way. And before we sign off or open it up to questions, that is something I will say about our team, is that they're very open to new ideas. If there's something that you're doing internally that is interesting to us that we could add into the tool set, we'll take that, that feedback and update the tools accordingly, which I've heard from third-party tools, non-SharePoint based tools, you kind of get what you get and that's it. So there is a lot more flexibility here inside of your SharePoint tenancy or farm.
And like you were saying about Nitro Studio, you can use it for this. You can actually just get Nitro Studio raw in a way and use it to build your own applications if you're kind of got that citizen developer mindset, right?
Yeah, that's true. It was very application, our business maturation was very application heavy, and now we're starting to see more folks dive into the Nitro Studio space because of the limitations around the Power Platform in terms of the knowledge you have to set it up. But as we were talking about it, and as I was showing and Scott's showing here, you don't have to be a developer to go in and create a form or update a workflow, things like that. It's very power user friendly.
It really is. It really is.
Cool.
Okay, we'll leave it there and see if anybody's going to give us some, going to get in touch with us. We'll send a reminder, not a reminder, but a follow-up after. And we have plenty of information online too, on our website about all this too. So it's easy to get any information you need about what we're doing here and how this can be used. I'm doing WW purchase request. What's our website? There it is. Kind of like getting lost. Helping an organization around the world automate business processes. That's us. Go in there, automating, how we automate, all these different options we have. So here it is. All right, I guess that's it. Not too many questions, but hopefully people come up with contact us and talk to us directly, get a demo going. Find out about pricing. Pricing is very reasonable. We won't go into it, right? It's very specific, but very reasonable for this kind of program.
Sales at crowcanyon.com. That goes to both Scott and I. Sales at crowcanyon.com. If you want to contact us, there's also a form in the upper right-hand corner of the website there that Scott's showing. Either or is a good option to get a hold of us.
That's right. You mentioned we were also running the government cloud, GCC and GCC High. I should have mentioned that at the beginning.
Good call.
Yeah.
A lot of
GCC
federal customers. Not even like, this is something we talk about internally a lot, but there is the GCC High aspect of it. But also those who are, wanting to keep data specific to their tenancy and their organization from a security perspective. We also have that ability, basically all options on the table when it comes to leveraging 365 and even your Azure tenancy if needed.
Sure. And that's also SharePoint on premises, 2013, 2016, 2019. So kind of covering all bases, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
That's pretty good. All right, anything else, Ryan? Then I guess we can pack it up.
Yeah, we'll let these folks go 5 minutes early, early to recess. Lunch for us, and then like you said, if anyone has any questions, then give us a shout.
All right, thank you, Ryan.
Thanks,
and
guys.
Thank you everyone for attending. Okay, take care.